Hello there, and welcome to this session of our Pirates Pilfering and Dealing topic area, where in this session we're going to be looking at the complexities of morality. So now we can move on to our second learning outcome of topic 7, and so by the end of this topic session you will have started to develop a consideration of the complexities of morality relating to enterprise. So, in this last session, we mentioned how legality and morality are essentially different. So, let's talk a little bit more about morality now. So, first of all, Anderson and Smith consider the morality of entrepreneurship. They define morals as being the personal values and behaviours of individuals. In their approach, they focus on the social construction of entrepreneurship. In other words, they argue that the idea or concept of entrepreneurship is bound up in value judgments. They talk about the idea of the entrepreneurial hero, this kind of lone figure battling against large and evil corporations. And they say that because of the positive value judgments that we tend to have about entrepreneurs, that the term entrepreneur is seen as a halo word. Let's take a look at an example of how morality relates to industries, and in particular, the social construction of morality. Now, there are other examples, of course, but for now, let's revisit an industry that is related to the mining industry. When you think of a diamond, do you think of this? Or do you think of this? Now, the diamond industry is really quite complex, and the value chain spans right from the top there, where you can see the main producers occupy 73% of the market. So, companies like De Beers and Rio Tinto, huge mining organisations that are responsible for producing the majority of rough diamonds. Small and medium enterprises, though, producers, they end up with 27% of the market. You can see those on the right-hand side of your screen. These producers then sell to various different sales agencies, and eventually the diamonds, the rough diamonds, will trickle down the value chain right to the bottom of the screen, where you can see that the diamonds are ready to enter the retail market. However, in our example, we're going to focus on the buying and selling of rough or unprocessed diamonds in the part of the value chain highlighted there in front of you. So how does it all work? Okay, so this part of the value chain refers to companies mainly owned by the mining firms. And these mining firms are selling rough diamonds to diamond dealers and brokers. Now, the first thing to say is that it is a closed market system. Trade is by invitation only. In other words, you can only buy these rough diamonds if you are invited by these large companies to do so. So what happens then is that buyers, the dealers and the brokers, they make a request in terms of what sort of diamonds they would like. Basically, they stipulate the quality and the size and maybe the number as well. So the sellers then put together lots. This is called block booking with a price. So basically, they put together trays of diamonds, and each tray will have a set price. There is no negotiation on the price, and also buyers cannot pick and choose which diamonds they would like in the tray. They either buy the tray or they don't buy the tray. They can, of course, refuse to buy the tray, but it comes with penalties. Buyers, if they refuse to buy the tray, they are then denied access to future sales. They're blacklisted. So therefore, the sellers are completely controlling the market. Now, all of this is perfectly, completely legal. And similar closed systems and block buying exist in other industries, the luxury watch industry, for example. But is it moral? Well, we'll all have our gut responses as to whether it's moral or not. But when we look further, it's actually quite a complex question. So, consider. Rough diamonds have qualitative characteristics, and these are not seen by the buyer at these stages. The true value of a finished, polished diamond is only discovered post-ante. So the process of faceting and polishing, for example, this is a very, very individual skill. Also consider possible assessment is done in the context of rough diamonds being credence goods. This involves qualitative characteristics that cannot be measured by the end buyer. So therefore there is incomplete pre- and post-contract information about the goods, i.e. the diamonds. So let's take a hypothetical scenario. What say if the law was changed to prevent block booking? What if block booking was illegal? Well, that poses a number of problems in itself. First of all, problem number one, there would be an incentive to spend resources that are not compensated by any benefit, i.e. the buyer would need then to carefully inspect each and every diamond. There would be different costs for additional sorting, assessments by the seller. Prohibiting negotiation actually stops the buyer incentive to gather expensive information. Second problem is that the seller loses the guarantee that all the diamonds will be sold. Remember, these diamonds are sold in trays or lots, and the buyer cannot pick and choose which diamond he or she would like. And thirdly, if block booking became illegal, it actually might destabilize the market. What would happen is that the best diamonds would disappear, they would be sold, and less valuable ones are either undersold or not sold at all. We would then have a situation maybe of adverse selection, which is known as Gresham's law, would occur. The quality is not uniform, so inspection must take place. The prices would not match what is needed to keep the market moving and stable. So let me ask you a question at this point. We've been looking at systems of market efficiency in the diamond industry. Do you think that systems of market efficiency make the activity more moral? Does market efficiency have anything to do with morality in enterprise? Before you snap at your answer, introduce the concept of the maximisation of shareholder value into the mix. Now, we can say that maybe one of the moral obligations of companies are to maximise shareholder wealth or shareholder value. Does this have an effect on your answer? Press pause and reflect for a minute. And when you've reflected, then you can move on. Staying with our example of the diamond industry, we can also find room at this point to illustrate the entrepreneur as a hero idea. So now imagine that a lone entrepreneur has managed to infiltrate the closed system of trade in the diamond industry. So an entrepreneur has managed to lobby the appropriate governments to change laws, to force mining companies and their sales agencies to operate more fairly, more openly. It's kind of like a David and Goliath view. Again, this small lone entrepreneur battling against the large evil corporations. Is there not something attractive about that view? And we can contextualise this idea of the entrepreneurial hero back to Anderson and Smith's ideas of morality. Criminal activity or enterprise is seen as lacking moral legitimacy, although they do find considerable ambiguity in the cases that they study. Within his firm, i.e. the criminal network of contacts, in their criminal case study individual is very much admired in the same way as their legitimate entrepreneur. In other words, within a criminal context, the entrepreneur is still very much admired. Social constructions, therefore, are very context dependent and they're very hard to define in any absolute terms. Ambiguity reflects the discussion of legitimacy.
Okay, our last question for this particular session. Do you accept Smith's spectrum view? Or, like Anderson and Smith, do you believe that criminality is morally different somehow? Press pause and reflect on this question, and when you've finished, you can move on to the next session.